you very much, Graham. And as you'd expect, with the Institute for Learning, which is the professional body for trainers, assessors, teachers across the learning and skills sector, we're deeply committed to the professionalism of what I think for the audience here is your staff, your teachers, your trainers, your assessors. I don't know, it'd be very interesting, how many of you are involved directly in any kind of training, assessing, teaching yourselves? Just as a, do you put your hand up for a moment so I can see? Fantastic. So that's good to see the active professionalism of the leaders and managers focusing on that front line interface with your trainees as well. Thank you. Delighted to be here, and also I'd like to share with you for the first time, so outing and sharing with the work-based learning sector, the findings from our membership survey. Over 6,000 teachers, trainers, assessors fed back to us what their views are of the world. So I'll give you a bit of a preview, a sort of confidential preview of those findings. But I'd also like to say what IFL can offer to you and your organisations and your teachers and trainers. I joined the IFL in June. I think it's a fantastic organisation. It's grown very rapidly in the last year, and now we have over 170,000 members and still growing. And I think that universality is a really important point. What I hope that you'll do following this conference is, if in your own organisations there are trainers or assessors who aren't yet members of IFL, do encourage them to join us, particularly bearing in mind the 25% in the governance of ELSIS. What we have with our figures shows around about 10% of our members are work-based learning trainers or assessors, and 11% of our respondents to the survey were from work-based learning. So potentially there's quite a distance to go still, and we want to make sure that our services meet the needs of your context. And I've been involved in work-based learning one way or another over many years, and so very graphically in my mind are the basements of hotels with the trainer assessor conducting reviews of portfolios, carrying out assessments, using Facebook to contact members at 11 o'clock at night, at 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever it might be, very flexible. This particular example is Train to Gain illustration. Also the training providers, and of course the apprenticeships and the work-based training routes, so important for young people and adults. I'll say something briefly about IFL's vision, about the scale of our organisation, and about being a professional, what that means, and to welcome your views for your circumstances and the range of provision that you offer, what you think a professional teacher, trainer, assessor is now, and what your vision is for the future. And as I say, share some findings from our survey. So many members from work-based learning, many thousands of teachers, trainers. I spoke with somebody who didn't want to be named and shamed. I think it's more named and celebrated, really. But from the Midlands, a training provider with 19 members of staff, and saying to me just this morning how the professionalising of the role of assessor to involve more training, more teaching, has been such a boon to the learners that his organisation works with, but also hugely motivating for the staff. So a bit of an uncertain, what will this mean, how far down that professionalising route should we go, do we want to go, but actually incredible feedback so far, so thank you. Look forward to more stories like that. As I say, more than 170,000 members, so one of the largest professional bodies in England currently, a major voice potentially for the practitioners to influence policy, national policy, and also the work of other agencies. And we're very keen to, as Roger said, to work closely with ELSIS, we work closely with LLUK and with other partner agencies as well. We don't want to compete, and we don't want to conflict with what other bodies are doing. As a professional body, we believe that we can offer a distinctive and very practical set of benefits for our members. And in particular, one of the things that we want to do, and it's linked with raising the reputation of our sector as a whole, the very diverse FE and skills sector, is to raise the status of the professionals, so the standing, the status of professionals. What we know from surveys is that many teachers, trainers are very proud themselves of what they do, but they don't feel that that's recognised more widely, often in the context of their own employer, but certainly more widely in the national arena and in the public domain. IFL, to unpack a few myths, was created by teachers, in particular in FE colleges, but now the membership broadened across the sector as a whole. It wasn't created by government. It was created about 7 years ago. A lot of enthusiasm amongst teachers saying schools have professional bodies, lawyers do, barristers do, HE has the academy. Why not FE? What's happening here? Why haven't we got our own professional body? So they began to build and create that, and working with LLUK and with some research by the unions and other research bodies too. So IFL is independent of government. Currently we're reviewing our governance arrangements. We do have observers on our council from work-based learning backgrounds, but we're reviewing that to bring it up to date. We've got a historic arrangement where we're not reflecting the sector. So that's going on at the moment, the review of governance, so that we get that breadth involved for the whole of our work. But we're independent of government. There were regulations from September 2007 for FE college teachers and trainers to required to join, and with LSC contracts also for trainers across the diversity of the sector. We think that was a very important move. It signalled the centrality of the professional role, the important role of teachers and trainers. But from our point of view, and now looking forward for the Institute for Learning, we want to make sure that you as individuals, if you're teaching training, but also for those who work with you in those roles, that you want to be a member, you want to be a member of the IFL, you see the benefits, you want to be part of that community of professionals, and you want your voice as professional frontline teachers, trainers to be heard in the corridors of decision making and influence and power. We are still open and welcoming new members. We also welcome members if your organisations have funding from different sources. There is a charge for that. For the LSC funded provision, then the membership is free. So we think there can only be benefits really from this government opportunity, like the GTC for schools, that membership fee is paid for your trainers. So please take up the offer, and take up the offer to join us and influence us on how we develop as your professional body. The fee, very minimal. Some of you will be members of other professional bodies, and I think hard-pressed to find any or many that have a fee of £30, so pretty minimal if you do have to pay that fee yourselves for some of your trainers. Also, there's a myth that perhaps there's some prescribed or proper continuing professional development that should be done. And what is that list? What is that checklist? No such checklist exists. But what we believe, and it's a bit of a culture change, as Roger was saying earlier, that power and choice in the hands of the individual professionals, that those teachers, trainers are best placed themselves to be deciding what kind of professional development is useful for them, with that dual professionalism of the training, teaching, assessing role, and up to date with their subject matter, their vocational area. And it has to be right for the individual, for their context, in discussion with yourselves as their employer. And we will be doing some light monitoring to look at the take-up and the range of CPD, with a major focus in sharing practice, so that you will have insights that we can share with you into what good practice there is in the kinds of approaches that are being used for CPD. What is a professional? Echoing what others have said throughout the conference, every learner deserves effective training and learning, and that's a very professional role. It's a very important role for the upskilling of the nation and for the new generations of young learners coming through. This is not something to be treated lightly or carelessly, as you very well know, and you're championing yourselves at every stage too.